Rambo back with some Grand Tactician Civil War CSA campaign in the 1.06 beta. This is a campaign that we're taking at a fairly slow pace in terms of real time. We're in episode 22, I think this is going to be. And we're still in 1861. And that's because spending a lot of time, taking a look at the 1.06 mechanics, talking a lot about them. And it, quite frankly, much of the campaign has been with time paused while we look at those things. And that's just kind of the theme of this campaign. I do have other Grand Tactician Civil War content on the channel, including 3 completed campaigns, both Union and CSA, in 1.05, which is still the current live version of the game as I record this. It does appear that 1.06 is going to go live fairly soon, possibly by or before the end of May. Anyway, so that's what's going on here. I do cover other games on the channel. I've got a lot of Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, although that's getting a little older, several months ago. And a couple of other games. If you like what you see, you like the content, then leave a like, leave a comment, perhaps even a subscribe. And a lot of the stuff that I do talk about in this campaign does refer back to other things that have been kind of being tracked and monitored throughout. So if you'd like to go back and have a look at the earlier episodes in this campaign, I will post a playlist at the end of this video. Okay, I don't have a tremendous amount to kind of talk about before we get rolling here. One is, I don't think we've looked at our POW camps for quite a while. They may have finished by now. Let's just have a look and see how they're doing. The main one is here at Columbus. And so it has finished upgrading, but it is zeroed out, not full. Okay. We've had some battles fairly recently where we took some prisoners, I'm sure. I feel like there should be some prisoners here. And I don't know where we built the other ones. Which was exactly the reason I kind of put them close together, and I still can't find the darn things. I know there was one right... Okay, here. Okay, so this one's done, which means the other ones we built are also done. I just can't find them. So this one is 0 of 1,000. This one, as we saw, was... that wasn't making. It was this one. 0 of 2,500. Didn't we build one over here somewhere? Unfortunately, you have to just hover right over the building where they are, and the buildings aren't very big. There's one. That one's 0 of 1,000. Madison. I should probably write these down on a sticky note on my monitor to find them. I could swear we had one building over here someplace. And there's not a heat map for these. Okay, well... Did I actually build one at Andersonville? I don't think I did. Somewhere in this area is another prison camp. So we have a total of 4. At least I think we do. And I guess I'm going to have to go back and look at the pertinent episode to see where the hell I built that thing. And so we should have a combined capacity of 5,500 prisoners. Which means I really think we should have some prisoners in here after that battle in Indiana, because I'm pretty sure these completed before that occurred, which makes me wonder if this parole button isn't just a one-time action, but maybe it's like a toggle. Maybe you know, earlier I paroled some prisoners because we had overcrowding, right? That was several episodes ago. Maybe that keeps paroling until I tell it to do otherwise. Yeah, see, it doesn't gray out. Huh. Okay, so maybe I just toggled it back. And we'll see after an upcoming battle, whenever that occurs, if we in fact get some prisoners again. Because I didn't really, there was one battle where very momentarily that prison overcrowding button appeared up here and then immediately disappeared. And I think that's because it appears to me now, I didn't really think much of it at the time, but that now seems to me that this camp was in a parole all prisoners status, not just a one-time action. Okay, so we'll see how that pans out, but we've got more prison camps now, for whatever that's worth. Okay, next topic. It seems like this comes up like almost every episode, right? About the damned railroads and the time taken to construct them, and I think I have finally figured out what the heck was going on with this railroad. All right. So, the railroad we've been building is the Texas Houston and Shreveport Railroad. And I went back into the episodes to look for what exact date did I start constructing this thing. And that was in episode 8, which was a little later than I thought, but I'd forgotten that we'd rolled back several episodes because of that enormous bug that pretty much crashed version 1.0618. So the in-game date that we started the Houston and Shreveport Railroad was 24 July. And initially, you know, you hover over it, and down at the bottom it tells you construction time X number of days. And what it told us at the time was 265. So we built it, right? This button was active. So built it, and immediately this tooltip said construction time 530 days, exactly double what it had been just a moment before, and time was frozen during, paused during all that. Okay. Well, this railroad is 41% complete and has 141 days left to go. We started it on July 24th. Okay, so I went back and calculated, all right, what is 265 days from 24 July? And that date is, this thing was projected to complete on 15 April 1862. All right, showing here 41% complete, and in this tooltip, when we hover over the construction button that's grayed out, it says 141 days left to go. All right. What is 41% of 265 days from 24 July, and what is 141 days back from 15 April? 9 November. What's the date? 8 November. Okay? This railroad has been constructing exactly on track, on timetable for that 265-day initial projection all along. There has been no competition for building materials with other buildings. There has not been slowdowns from transportation bottlenecks or shortages of supplies, and none of that. It told us 265 days, and it's proceeding right down that timeline. exactly as it should, no problem. So where was the confusion? Okay. When you hover over this construction tooltip, that pertains to this railroad as it's being built right now. Down at the bottom of this tooltip, when you hover over it to the left, that number is an estimate of what it would take to build this railroad if we started construction today, and takes into account that there's another railroad being built. What it does not take into account is, oh, well, this railroad's already being built, and the other railroad that would cause the slowdown in construction time is itself. So that's why, way back in episode 8, it told us 265 days to construct, and then we hit the build button, and then this estimate over here on the left doubled to exactly 2 times that estimate for 530 days. It was essentially telling us if we were building 2 Houston and Shreveport railroads side by side simultaneously. That's the confusion, all right? So bottom line, when building railroads, go by this tooltip over here on the build button. This was probably very, very obvious to many viewers. It wasn't to me. Y'all were just rolling your eyes. Brian will eventually get it. That's okay. I do that on other people's videos sometimes. Alright, that's enough about railroads. Kind of a little demystification there, and no, the game wasn't as complicated as we were, or at least as I was leading myself to believe. Let's talk a little bit about where we're at with projects. And oh, by the way, you may remember just a few days ago, all the projects just had this same little icon. It just showed a little picture of a gun. I think it was this one right here. Now they've changed those all up. They all have their own little different individualized icons for what kind of category or whatever they are. That's kind of neat. I mean, it's just visual stuff, but it's still kind of neat. All right. We do have one available. It is Cotton is King. I'm not interested in that. It's basically just improves relations with European nations, and I'm not pursuing that in this campaign. Partially because, well, actually mainly because that's just money, resources, and policy choices that go off in a direction that I don't feel like we really need. The bottom line, I don't think the CSA really needs to pursue European intervention in this game. I mean, it's kind of a cool thing to do. I'll probably do a campaign at some point pursuing some sort of intervention, just for the sake of, you know, something different. But I don't think the CSA needs that in the current state of the game. They're not done working on it. At some point, we may really need that. For now, I don't think we do. Okay, so I'm not going to go for Cotton, and I had kind of keyed on this before in an earlier episode, but I kind of took my eye off the ball and had kind of forgotten about it for a while. But this farm mechanization, I think, is what I want to save up ag subsidies for a while. I'm on a couple levels of this farm mech. Reason, talked in the last episode about our recruitment and our manpower situation, right? We're kind of tapped out. That 41K is not as big as it looks because of a state-by-state basis and because of the need to retain a pretty healthy pool for replacement of losses in existing divisions from both casualties and attrition. We don't have room to recruit a bunch of new brigades. We have a fairly decent reserve, at least in some states, to replenish attrition and casualties, but we're not in a position right now to recruit new brigades, and therefore I took another recruitment project level in the last episode, and I'm also planning on going for Militia Act 3 as soon as our current industrialization policy completes, which should be just in a couple days. Farm mechanization can be a factor there because this is its effect. Further increases farm output, good, we want that, and available volunteers. So, doesn't exactly stick out at you, but this is another, volunteer manpower project here. So I'm going to let Ag fill up and go for this thing next. And I may even hold off and go for a second level after that. We'll look over here in the project effects and see what the exact effect is, right? Because every one of these projects, before you take them, it gives you a nice description over here and kind of tells you what it does. What it does not do is tell you, okay, here's what it does, but we don't tell you exactly by how much. Once you research it, though, this project effects window over here on the lower right does tell you some numbers, okay? So, we've taken a couple of levels, I think, of... I thought I had. Where is it? Well, where is the Oh. I don't have, for some reason, I don't have politics selected. Something appears a little glitchy there. Oh, assignable only. Turn that off. Okay. That was not a glitch. That was just me screwing up my filters. Yeah, we have a couple of levels of admin reform. And 2 levels is getting us a 10% speed increase in our policy unlock. It's not terrible. I don't know if it's really all that fantastic either. On the other hand, I think it's still one of the better reasons to use politics subsidies. Recruitment offices, number of available volunteers. That 1 level gave us an extra 10%. That's not bad. Okay, for 1 level. And then if it's 10% per level, then another 20% and 30%. That gets pretty good, pretty fast. We took the plantation mech. We've got a 10% cotton production boost. Okay. We've got 2 levels of railroad construction, so railroads are constructing 10% faster. Which is interesting because, given what I just talked about, that Houston-Shreveport Railroad seems to be trucking along on timetable from the moment we started construction. Day by day. I had calculated November 9th. We're on November 8th. So either I was a day off, which is most likely, or bottom line, we're right on track. I had not researched any railroad construction left. Railroad construction at that point. So earlier, I was under the impression that railroad construction level pertained to railroads currently under construction. Now, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that the Houston-Shreveport is getting the benefit of these 2 levels because it is on track. It is not ahead of schedule. What we did see a reduction in was this left-hand projected construction time. But that only pertains to the railroad that you haven't actually started constructing yet. So this thing is going to pertain eventually when we get to building this Cumberland Gap Railroad, which if we started right now would be 735 days. Yuck. but I don't think it is pertaining to the currently building Houston Shreveport. Okay, and then this one, I don't know what to think. I took a level of it, but I don't know what to think of this trade deals. Each level of this project further increases the profits from foreign trade deals. And it says here, lucrative trade deals, 5%. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean we're selling our exports for 5% more? And buying imports for 5% less? That is the most obvious interpretation of what this phrase means. And until we see any other indicators, that's what I'm going to just assume that it means, but that's ambiguous to me. I don't know if this is worth taking or not. I mean, it sounds good. They all sound good to some degree. All right. On the military side, here's what I think I'm going to do. I've talked several times about, I want to take these legacy rifles. You know what? We've got Springfield rifles. And we got 50,000 of them coming. And when they come, I'm going to order some more. This might be all we need. I think it is all we need. I am kind of 50-50 on whether or not I want legacy rifles. The argument against taking legacy rifles is we've already got Springfields, we got a lot coming, we can order more. The argument for taking legacy rifles is you can only have one order at a time going in any one category, right? If I order, just to pick a number, if I order 1,000 Springfield rifles, then for the duration of that entire delivery time, I cannot order more, right? It's in series, not parallel. If I order legacy rifles, then I can have some Springfields and some Mississippis, and oh, by the way, some Plains rifles all working at the same time, and therefore I can get more rifles a little bit faster, right? Because I have multiple orders working in parallel rather than in series. So I'm not 100% sure. I mean, there's pros and cons, and so I'm kind of back to, I don't know if I'm going to take this or not. I do think that at most, only basically at most, two sources of rifles are all you need. And maybe even just one is enough. I mean, there's rebores, there's legacies, there's Confederate rifles, there's Sharps rifles. If you take them all, well, you just don't need them all. That's too much military subsidies to sink into rifles. But having only one project of rifles maybe kind of constricts the number that you can get over a short period of time. So I think two is the way to go. And one can make an argument for, we've got the Springfields, which, oh, by the way, is only active because of that arms agent pre-war policy. In many other CSA campaigns, Springfield rifles would not be available. It'll still be here. It'll still fill up with subsidies. I've seen this in other videos. Great Scott's just put out a pretty nice economy video where this is clearly visible. And Springfield rifles will fill up with subsidies, but this button over here will never activate. It'll stay grayed out. So at this point, I'm kind of yimmering and yammering between just keeping Springfields only and just working with that, or go ahead and take legacy rifles and augment the Springfields with some Mississippis and maybe even some Plains, or bypass legacy and wait and take Confederate rifles as an alternate source and get some Fayettevilles in Richmonds. And I don't know which one I'm going to do yet. As far as artillery, I've taken the cast artillery, which gave us the smooth bores, the Napoleons, and the 14-pound James. And I think I only need to take... one can make an argument, this is all I need. Right? It's giving me some rifles. It's giving me some nice smooth bores. Why spend military subsidies on more? Are these better rifles here in these projects? Yeah. Rifled artillery gives us the 3-pound ordnance, and Parrott rifles, obviously gives us Parrotts, which are pretty nice. But do I need to sink the military subsidies into these? Is this enough? I kind of think it is. I will probably still get one of these at some point, just because I like these artillery. But I may not. I'm going to skip cavalry carbines, and I'm going to wait for medium range carbines. That's for sure, because these will bring us Maynards and Merrills, which are better than the short range carbines. So if I'm holding back on some of these nice looking weapons projects up here, what am I going to spend the military subsidies on? I've already talked about recruiting offices, and I've talked about how I like the idea of trade warfare, but this is one I really haven't looked at closely enough. Logistics reforms. Each level of this project further reduces transportation upkeep and supply costs. And what does that transform into? I think that transforms into this Army upkeep number, which is currently sitting at almost 300 million right now. I think that's going to reduce this Army upkeep. That is the effect that I think is going to occur here. That's a big savings. And where am I getting that? I'm getting that from Great Scott's video that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, in which I did link at the end of the last video, and I'll link it again at the end of this one, because he took several levels of logistics, whatever that was called, logistics reform, and his military at the time that he's making that video in his CSA campaign is significantly larger than mine, and he has an Army upkeep which is significantly lower. And his comment is that it was this logistics reform. Yeah, logistics reforms project is what enabled that cost savings, and that saves a butt ton of money. So I think I'm going to start putting some military subsidies into this thing. Military railroad, I'm not all that fussed about. Its effect, for one thing, it's a one-time deal, which is good because it's expensive as hell. Troop movement speed along railroads is greatly increased. I think that falls into the nice to have but not critical category, in my opinion. All right. Enough talk about projects. So, where we left off was the Union has captured Grafton. Okay? And they're building a supply depot there, right? These are time-late positions here. At least one of these forces is all the way at Grafton by now. Garnett doesn't have enough men to really take on both of these forces together. And we spent quite a bit of time in the last episode talking about the various solutions available to deal with this. I'm not going to go through all those again. The plan is that Something just came up in the house real life. I will be back at some point soon. Well, soon for you. I don't know how long it's going to take for me. Putting a cut in right here. Right, well, that's sorted. And so, the bottom line is Beauregard's army here, which is just Garnett's Corps, isn't really in a position to deal with both of these armies here, and didn't want to take Johnston and bring him over here from the east, because then that would have left Longstreet facing, it's not visible now, but there are 2 federal armies here with a combined 50,000 men. So I didn't want to give them ideas near Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia. So Johnston, his army consists of Hardee's Corps, has finished capturing Evansville following the Battle of Proud Peak near Evansville. And so he and Hardee's Corps are under orders to come back to Louisville and replenish their supply, and then they are going to head up the river to Marietta, Ohio. They aren't. Hardee is. Hardee's going to head up here and chop under Beauregard's command, and the temporarily enlarged Army of Western Virginia is going to come over here, retake Grafton, and hopefully defeat these forces, thereby making them quiet for the rest of the winter. Meanwhile, down at Nashville, that's the recruitment command. Where is... Okay. That's interesting. Where exactly is Cooper? Anyway, in the Western Department, under the command of... Okay, so Cooper's over at Knoxville. And the recruiting command under Bragg is at Nashville, but there is a new corps under not AP, but under D.H. Hill at Knoxville. This is the corps, newly formed, that will replace Hardee's Corps temporarily in Kentucky while this little campaign is going on up here around Grafton. Hill doesn't have all of his forces quite yet, but he's got all of his or he will momentarily. It's going to take 5 days for them to get from Nashville to Knoxville. And you can't, all you can do is pick a state, right? When a new army or corps is formed, the game picks where in that state the darn thing will form. I would not have placed Hill's Corps at Knoxville, nor would I have placed Cooper's HQ at Knoxville either. That's, the game did that. He's still got another artillery battalion and his cavalry brigade has not quite been recruited yet, so he's waiting on those. But he's got all his infantry. However, all of those infantry, it should be noted, are just armed with Springfield muskets. That's it. I think. Yeah. So even though we've got this corps, I would kind of prefer that they not do much fighting until all those Springfield rifles get here in a few months. Because I don't know how well they would do. Alright, so that's what's going on, and I think we're ready to advance time. Even on the river, winter movement is still slower. But I'd much rather have them moving on the river than marching in winter. Got a supply depot here. We're building a market. There was this idea earlier that I thought, well, if you have some depleted brigades, just transfer them back and let the rear hospitals plus them up and then send them back. Yeah, I don't think I want to do that. Seems like a lot of micro. I'm just going to build a hospital up here. Just gonna do it. If it lets me. They're really not all that terribly expensive by 1.06 standards. Okay, so hopefully Hardy is in good supply here. Do I have my... Oh, let me turn on my telegraph and my supply. And I'll say for the 58th time, those should be on by default when you load the game in. If there's any devs watching. Yeah, okay. He's at 100% supply, so he'll be fixed up here momentarily. I hope. In the meantime, I don't see any reason why we can't just... Garnet is back 100% supply from this IIP. That's good. But he's in scout mode already. Let's just move him a little bit closer over here, just so we get an idea of whether both of those armies are still there or if it's only one. I think that would be good information to have. It might just be enough to pop him back across the river to get that vision. We'll see. If it is only one army here, and that other one has gone somewhere else, then this might be a much easier problem to deal with. No, it's going to have to get a little closer, I think. Come on up here. That ought to be close enough to see what the hell is at Grafton building that supply depot. You can see here, almost 800 men disabled, sick. That's because I'm moving them during winter. Just to show why, you know, players typically don't do that. He's up above 800 now from sick guys. And in scouting, well, I guess, do we have to actually have his command radius over Grafton? Typically not. You can usually see armies further away than that in scouting mode. Okay, Industrialization 2 enacted. More support for southern factories. Yes, please. And then let's go to increasing the state's recruitment quotas by researching Militia Act 3, as discussed before. I don't want to accidentally get him into a damn fight here. Come up this railroad a little bit more. I want to see if there's one or two armies here. The Trent Affair. I think this is historical flavor. I don't think this affects anything in the game. I think. You know, having a little cavalry corps right now would be pretty helpful. I do these campaigns, and I keep saying, I've said it before in other campaigns, I'm going to build some cavalry corps for scouting on the campaign map, and then I never get around to it. I do not understand why he's not seeing it. There is an army there because there's a supply depot building. They haven't run off. And I'm just, you know, just very small movements because I don't want to accidentally get them into a battle against a much larger force. fuck? Oh, this is a different... 2,700 men have pitched into Price in Missouri? Really? No, it's more than that. It's 5,200. Man, he's got a lot of cavalry. So 5,000 men about. Still. What I'm sitting here thinking about is, do I even bother recording this? Well, I guess I am. Alright, so, looks like we're about to beat up on 5,000 Federals, I guess. Under the command of the faceless, William Montgomery. Who's 60 years old. Never heard of that guy. Don't know if... that might even be like a randomly generated... I don't know. You can't see his biography for the enemy generals. Alright, so I'm going to get in, look at the map, figure out the deployment, routes, objectives, all that kind of crap, and I will be back. Hey, Brambra back. We was already past the 40-minute mark-ish on that video, so I decided just to make the battle into a different video, which I'll post at about the same time, so you should be seeing that right around the same time as this episode. So, if you like what we're doing with the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, perhaps even a subscribe. But at any rate, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate it.